Have you ever found yourself rushing through the day, constantly checking the clock and feeling that overwhelming urge to just get things done as quickly as possible? You might find yourself sprinting through the grocery store, weaving through the aisles only to realize you skipped over an important item on your list. It's all too common to feel pushed for time, isn't it? And it's not just about errands. You might be so eager to reach a destination that you end up speeding, getting pulled over in the process, or so anxious for a significant life event that your own haste complicates matters. This pattern of rushing isn't limited to physical tasks. It permeates deeper aspirations too, like the profound yearning to start a family. Here too, the irony of haste reveals itself. Sometimes the very stress of trying to accelerate things can be the obstacle. In a world that prizes speed and efficiency, it's tempting to believe that faster is always better. Yet, there's wisdom in considering another approach, an appreciation for the unfolding of events in their own time. The book of Proverbs, chapter 21, verse 5, highlights a valuable lesson. The plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. This wisdom suggests that real fulfillment comes not from rushing, but through steady, purposeful action. If you believe in a higher power, you might recognize that there is a divine rhythm to life, suggesting that perhaps we aren't always the best judges of timing. Consider the scope of your own life. How often have you discovered in hindsight that a delayed outcome was beneficial? Stepping back from the impulse to control every detail might seem challenging, but it's also liberating. Take comfort in the words from 1 Chronicles, chapter 29, verses 11 to 12, where the sovereignty of God is proclaimed. Yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the majesty and the splendor, for everything in heaven and earth is yours. You are exalted as head over all. This verse reminds us of the larger forces at play, forces that guide and mold the arc of our lives. Adopting a posture of trust and patience allows you to navigate life with less stress and more grace. It's about trusting that you are being led precisely where you need to be at the right time. After all, life isn't a race. It's a journey that requires attention to the present and openness to the future. The next time you catch yourself in a rush, pause and consider the broader timeline of your life. Remember that everything has its season, and there is a time for every purpose under heaven. Slowing down doesn't mean falling behind. It means ensuring that you are moving in harmony with a grander plan, a plan that you are a part of but do not solely orchestrate. Isn't there a deep comfort in knowing that the weight of the world doesn't rest solely on your shoulders? When you face big decisions like whether to buy a new house or relocate to a different city, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of what could be. These opportunities often present themselves with attractive benefits like a fresh start, better amenities, or closer proximity to good schools. But have you ever paused to think about what else might change with such a move? In these significant moments, the insight from Isaiah chapter 55 verses 8 to 9 can provide profound guidance. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. This verse highlights that God's perspective and plans are far beyond our earthly considerations, encompassing a broader view of our welfare. Imagine you're drawn to a beautiful new home in another city. It seems perfect and aligns with everything you've been looking for. However, this move would mean distancing yourself from close family and friends, disrupting your support network. If you take time to pray and seek God's guidance, you might feel a gentle nudge telling you to stay put, despite the apparent allure of the new place. Sometimes, God's directions might guide you away from a seemingly ideal situation. You might not fully understand the reasons, but it revolves around trust. It's trusting that He is looking after your broader interests, not just the immediate gains, but the long-term benefits to your emotional and communal well-being. This trust builds from a deep relationship with God. When you actively engage with Him through prayer, meditation, and reading Scripture, you gradually align more with His vision and understand His intentions for you. This connection makes it easier to discern why He might steer you away from one path and lead you towards another, even if it's less appealing at first glance. So, next time you're contemplating a major life change, like moving to a new city or buying that dream house, pause and consider. Pray about it. Reflect on the wisdom of Isaiah 55, verses 8 to 9. Allow yourself to think about God's grander plan for your life. While the right choice might not be the most obvious one initially, embracing God's guidance ensures that you're not just chasing temporary satisfaction, but are moving towards lasting fulfillment and purpose. When you think about patience and faith, the story of Abraham and Sarah really stands out. It's a story that we can all learn from, especially when we're facing our own challenges or waiting for something important. Their story, found in Genesis chapter 15, verses 4 to 6, starts with God making a huge promise to Abraham that his own children would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. Imagine how overwhelming that must have sounded, especially since Abraham and Sarah were already well beyond the usual age for having kids. At first, Abraham believed God's promise. He held onto that belief because he trusted God's word. But as the years ticked by, both he and Sarah started to doubt. Maybe they felt that God needed a little nudge, or maybe they just couldn't see any other way to fulfill God's promise. So, they decided to take matters into their own hands. Sarah suggested that Abraham have a child with her maid, Hagar. This decision led to the birth of Ishmael. However, Ishmael was not the child God had promised. This part of the story really shows us how taking shortcuts can complicate things. Even though Ishmael was indeed Abraham's son, he wasn't the son through whom God intended to fulfill his promise. Later, God reiterated his promise, stating that Sarah would bear a son. You can almost picture Abraham laughing in disbelief. After all, he was about 100 and Sarah was 90. The thought seemed as impossible as it was laughable. Yet, within a year, Sarah gave birth to Isaac. The birth of Isaac is a powerful reminder that God's promises come to pass in His own timing and often defy human expectations. As it says in the book of Genesis, chapter 21, verse 2, Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. This miraculous event wasn't just a fulfillment of a personal promise to Abraham and Sarah, but a pivotal moment in biblical history. Abraham and Sarah's experience teaches us a vital lesson about patience and faith. It shows that even when we think the clock has run out, God's timing is perfect. When we try to rush or force things, we end up creating more problems for ourselves. Just like Abraham and Sarah did when they tried to solve God's promise on their own terms. Their story isn't just about the struggle of waiting, but also about the consequences of our choices. When Abraham and Sarah decided to go ahead with their plan, it not only affected their lives, but also had a lasting impact on their descendants. This teaches us about the long-term effects of our decisions, especially when we choose our way over God's way. Through this biblical narrative, we learn that trusting in God's plan means understanding that He sees the bigger picture, one that stretches far beyond our immediate perception. We are reminded that God is in control, not just of our lives, but of history itself. His plans are designed not just to fulfill personal desires, but to shape the destiny of generations. So, next time you find yourself getting impatient or trying to force a solution, remember Abraham and Sarah. Reflect on their story and consider the possibility that maybe, just like in their case, the best course of action is to wait on God's timing. Trust that He has not forgotten you and that His plans are worth the wait. In our world today, where everything happens at the click of a button, embracing this kind of patience is challenging but essential. Let's learn to wait as Abraham eventually did, trusting that God's promises, no matter how delayed they might seem, will surely come to pass. And remember, sometimes what seems like a delay is actually the perfect timing for a miracle. We all face those tough moments, those crossroads where we have to choose between following our own plans and trusting in God's guidance. It's tempting to grab the reins and try to control everything, especially when we're anxious or unsure about the future. We often think, if I can just get this job or move to this city, everything will be perfect. But the truth is, sometimes our perfect plans aren't really what's best in the grand scheme of things. That's where faith steps in. Trusting in God means believing that He has a broader view of our lives than we could ever have. He knows our past experiences, our present challenges, and our future needs. Imagine having a friend who knows exactly what's going to happen tomorrow, next year, or even 10 years from now. Wouldn't you trust their advice? When we lean on God, we're relying on His infinite wisdom and love, believing that He provides not just what we want, but what we truly need, exactly when we need it. Embracing this kind of trust can transform how we live. Instead of fretting over every decision or feeling crushed by setbacks, we can move forward with a sense of peace and patience. It's not about giving up on our dreams or stopping our efforts. It's about aligning our actions with God's timing. Following His path might take us on unexpected routes, but these often lead to the most fulfilling and worthwhile destinations. Life with God at the helm is not just about enduring the journey, but appreciating the scenery along the way.